Just an encouragement for anyone who wants to be involved. It's just a great way to connect deeper and just have that friendship. It's very meaningful. So, thank you, Jordan. We love you.
Okay. I'm just going to do a quick announcement for our speakers this month. We thought it being February and Love Month, and we get to celebrate Valentine's Day and how much we love our husbands, it'd be cool to have a married couple with us this morning. So we have Johnny and Jenna Johnston. Johnny is actually the head pastor of Willowdale at Jennersville, and his lovely wife Jenna is a counselor at the Peacemaker Center right here in Kennett. So we're excited to be able to hear a little bit more about them this morning, as well as their talk on choosing strength over stress in their marriage. So please help welcome Johnny and Jenna.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks. Can that go lower than that? No. Okay.
Can you all see our faces over this thing?
It's mostly like... I'm going to hide on purpose.
Posture. Well, good morning.
Hi.
How's everybody doing? Good to see all of you. I'm Johnny, obviously. This is Jenna.
I'm Jenna.
Yeah.
The one that's older than him.
Yeah. We're the same age for one day, and then it changes, which is great. We wanted to... We're going to talk about our marriage and what Jenna kind of named this, and I think it's huge, is choosing strength over stress. Because there are a lot of things in our marriages that can actually strengthen us, but they can also stress us out, sometimes by choice, but also sometimes just how we react to those certain situations. So we wanted to tell you just a little bit about who we are before we said anything. So you want to tell us who you are?
I'm Jenna. What do you want me to say? I am mostly a mom, but I also work as a marriage and family therapist at the Peacemaker Center. So that's what I do a few nights and one morning a week. And should I talk about how we met?
Yeah, go ahead.
Or do you want to say what you do? This is great to start, huh?
So I'm a pastor at Willowdale, Jennersville.
Oh
so Willowdale has two
already
campuses, if you didn't know this.
good,
So
so
I serve. We live in Oxford, so we're kind of on the other end of Route 1 down there. But we've been here for about 5.5 years. I'm from Pittsburgh. She's from Williamsport. We met in Ocean City, New Jersey, and we lived in California before we came back here. So we've kind of been all over the place. Moved back here to be closer to family. And when we moved back here, we'll tell you a little bit about that, but we kind of found out that we moved, I got a new job, we bought our first house, and we found out we were pregnant all within like a month. So it was just kind of a very unique and strength over stress, very stressful time for us in that.
Yeah.
And so we just had to kind of work through that. But
We did every major life transition at once, which most people would tell you you're not supposed to do that.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And that's our family up there. That's our little guy, Cohen, in the middle. I almost just fell off the chair. How did that just happen? So that's awesome. I'm not drunk, I swear. I literally almost just fell off the chair. Cohen will be 5 on March the 6th. We really like him a lot. Like we love him, but we also really like him. I think that's really important. And we're going to tell you a little bit about him. But I think is there a slide, just some pictures of us? Yeah, we just wanted to say, just some of the shots of us. I think that one picture is from the first night we kissed? Okay, yeah. So that picture's from the first night we kissed, and then that one is at a wedding that I performed last July, I think it was. We met in Ocean City, New Jersey. I rescued her when she was drowning. No, it didn't happen.
That sounds nice.
It does sound nice. No, I was living down there doing a summer program. She came to visit some of the people who were doing the same program with me that she went to college with. We met 2 weeks after that. She moved to California. I had a year of college left because she's a year older than me. And then I followed her out there, and we were married. I think
And you forget to tell the part about how I left Ocean City, New Jersey, and then Johnny called me every single day.
Yeah.
After I left, he was coming up with excuses every single day until he finally just realized, like, he could just call me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, I had to come. It was kind of creepy if I would just call you without having a reason. So I did come up with little excuses and reasons to call her. Some people call it stalking. I call it pursuing.
It worked out.
It worked
either way,
fine. Yeah, we're
whatever.
all right. Yeah. So anyhow, we'll be married for 10 years this summer, which is kind of crazy to think of. Yeah, I think that's probably all about us and how we met. Yeah. Anything else? Good. No, I think we have some slides, just some pictures of Cohen. We just want to tell you a little bit about who Cohen is. He is. I don't even know. I mean, how do you start about Cohen?
Okay, Cohen is intentional about everything that he does. He's very purposeful. He is really articulate. He's really interesting. He's really bossy. We're both oldest children in our family, which you're also not supposed to marry.
Right.
Like,
That
the oldest
techni-
is
this-
not supposed to
yeah,
marry the
this
oldest. That's not
shouldn't
supposed to
work
work.
technically.
So we definitely have an oldest in our family. He has the full personality of that. So we have 3 very strong-willed people in our family. And he loves to drum. That's one of his things. Since he was little, he basically came out of the womb drumming. So that's been a crazy thing that I never would have chosen for my household to be that loud. But it's also awesome. You know those things as a mom that you're like, to see your kid come alive, it doesn't even matter. Like, I'm so glad our house is loud because your eyes are lighting up and you're who God made you to be. And so that's awesome. So we do a lot of drumming in our house and basketball and soccer and mazes. More than I would care to draw or do. We do a lot of mazes right now. So.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, so we wanted to tell you just, that's so interesting. Our word got whited out, so you can't actually see what the word is. So don't worry, we'll catch you up on what those are. We wanted to kind of share some of the strengths and stresses, and we broke it up into kind of 4 categories. And the first category we wanted to talk about is just this idea of, as parenting and marriage, this unique role that comes out for you as a parent whenever you're married and parenting. So you were gonna.
Yeah. So I think the stress of that is that you probably all know that the best of you does not always come out through parenting, and you probably have seen the best of your spouse does not always come out through parenting, and some of those negative traits have sort of laid dormant for years, maybe. I mean, maybe you've seen pieces of them in your marriage, but your kids have a special way of just bringing out that absolute ugliest part of you and of your spouse. So you see that. So I think that can be a major stress and annoyance and just kind of like, oh, I don't like that about me, or I don't like that about you so much. I think that's the stress part of the uniqueness of this role of becoming a parent. But I think there's also a really cool thing that happens in that you get to see, for me, like seeing your husband become a father is so amazing. That word is even too trite. But I think all girls probably, you grow up, like you look at guys, and if they're good with kids, it's very attractive. And so then when it's your husband with your kid, that's just, makes my heart want to explode. And there's nobody else in the world to really love your kid as well as you love them, and there's nobody else to build family memories with the same level of investment. So I think that the uniqueness of this opportunity to be parents together can be a real strength for your marriage. And I know personally for me, I have no musical ability at all. Like, I love music, and my child is made to love music, but I can barely keep up with a tambourine, like a really simple 1-2 beat. I can't do that. I'm tone deaf, the whole thing. I've got nothing to offer in that department. So I'm really excited that Johnny can play the guitar, and I get to watch them experience that together. And I could teach Cohen nothing about soccer. I don't know anything, but they've been able to experience that together. And they just do all these special things, just the 2 of them. And I love that my husband and my son have their own hashtag, right? It's
Cohen daddy time.
Yeah. It's there's enough. It's so cool to me that I get to see Johnny pouring into our son and being intentional about that relationship and loving him so well and giving his time and his being into developing our kid. That's and had we not been parents together, I wouldn't have been able to see the fullness of that. So I think that's really strengthened our marriage and who I see you as.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, just to speak to that a little bit, there are definitely things in Jenna that I would have never seen in her come out if it wasn't for Cohen. I think one of the most fun things for me is you're not like a baby. Spilled water, great. I'm falling off the chair. You're spilling water, great. You're not like a baby person, but to watch you with Cohen and just kind of see that like nurturing mother side of you come out, and even some of the fun things that you get to do. So right now, Jenna's starting just like with some schooling stuff with Cohen at home, and there's this creativity piece that I think we have as kids that you kind of lose when you're an adult, that I've watched come out of her, and they've got to have Cohen and I have our fun little excursions and experiences. But you've also had some fun things come out, like you were reading a book about Russia and dancing or something around Christmas time, and they went down to watch the Nutcracker Ballet down in Philadelphia and went out to this special chocolate restaurant, and just kind of those things that you wouldn't get to do if you weren't a parent. So there's these unique roles that come out and responsibilities, and yeah, I mean, there are definitely things in me that have come out, like I'm very impatient, and that just gets exasperated with a 4-year-old, big time. Like, that's an understatement. But there's just things that bring it out. But there's so many good things that happen. I think that it's just, they're life-giving. And if you look at them as strengths and you realize, like, wow, I'm experiencing something of my wife or of my husband that I would have never gotten to experience if we didn't have a kid. There's a real strength in that. And if you focus on the stress, it becomes a stress. And it's going to be stressful sometimes. When you focus on the strength, there's really good things that come out in that. So, you have anything else on the unique role piece? Yeah, that one's kind of like, I don't want to say vague, but that one's kind of like a general overarching kind of thing. So they're not all going to be that way. For instance, the next one, if you want to go to the next slide there, that white block should say responsibilities underneath it. And that actually looks like we do nothing and our child does everything from those pictures.
That's how to
That's
deal
how
with
to
the
have a
tension
strength.
around responsibilities.
So just in general with responsibilities, I mean, the fact of the matter is that sometimes it's hard to pick up the responsibilities that you already have just as husband and wife, because on top of being a parent, because the truth is, at the end of the day, not even at the end of the day, sometimes at the start of the day, we both feel pretty tapped out, and sometimes we just want to be lazy, and we don't really want to do anything. And along with this comes a level of, with the responsibilities, one of the things we had to learn about is discipline. Who's responsible for discipline? How do you handle that? We walked through the uniqueness of, my family very much handled discipline differently than Jenna's family. Jenna is a therapist. Her dad was a psychologist. So they talked about things. My family said nothing and slammed cupboards. So, it's like, how do you deal with those kind of things, and just in responsibilities and discipline and how that happens? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of differences in how you were raised. And so I think a real stress of this, well, as I just said, is if you feel tapped and lazy. But we've experienced, I think, a strength of this at times, because when we realize that if we're both on the same page with things like responsibilities, like we're just aware of who's doing what when they're doing it, whether that's like who's paying the bills, who's washing dishes, who's making dinner that night, who's disciplining the kids, who's taking the trash out when Cohen's not taking. That's the one time he's taken the trash out, by the way, that Jenna took a picture of it. And he was
so cute.
It was cute, yeah.
This little body pulling that huge thing. It was so cute.
Yeah.
I giggled the whole way down the
Yeah.
driveway.
Yeah. So, and I mean, even to kind of go back to the unique roles things, like when I do things outside, I try to bring Cohen into that, because that's part of a unique way. So he was helping me rake leaves, even though he actually made it more difficult for me to rake the leaves. But that's just kind of, so, but anyhow, the strength of that is, we're on the same team. We have a sense of teamwork. And I think that there's a unity and kind of a camaraderie that's come out of, not that we have, oh my goodness, we're so much stronger now because we're united against our son. But at some level, he needs to know that he's tried to manipulate us at times when it comes to discipline and different things. And it's like, guess what, bud? Mommy and daddy are on the same team here. You can choose to be on our team with us, or you can make this difficult. And we've actually used those words with him, just so he knows that there's a strength in us. I mean, we've never wanted to, and we know this will happen probably more as he gets older, but we've never wanted to kind of be in the situation where Cohen asks Jenna for something or me for something and we say no, so he kind of sneaks around and goes back to the other one and asks if he could get at it that way, or even just can I sleep over someone's house or whatever that is. We want to be united, we want to be on the same team with that, and I think you want to, yeah.
Well, I think we talk through a lot of this.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff that changes, it's always just figuring it out and being open with where people are a little bit different. So just even with responsibilities, I mean, I feel really thankful because Johnny is really good at sharing the load with me, and I feel like he would pick up anything, any task that I ask, he's happy to help with that, whether it's cooking or laundry or whatever. He helps our house look better than I can do by myself, so I'm really thankful for that. But we just have, the way we spend our time and everything is a little bit different, and I think it could be frustrating if we didn't talk about it. So just one really simple example is that Johnny is a doer and I'm kind of a soaker. So I love, after dinner, I love to sit around the table and just talk for a really long time. Like, I want to just soak in that moment and have let's have a conversation, and that's like, that really feeds me, where Johnny is like getting up and doing the dishes right away, which is great, right? That your husband's doing the dishes, but I would love if he sat at the table and soaked a little bit with us. I mean, he would probably love if I got up and put things in the refrigerator a little bit faster. So I think that we can kind of laugh about that because we've talked about it and found a happy medium, but we definitely have different instinctual go-tos with certain responsibility tasks like that.
Yes, I'm not saying anything about you cleaning up or anything like that. You do. You keep a good house. I like our house.
Just don't anyone come over today. I was sick for 2 weeks.
You are. Yeah, it's true. She was sick.
Our
for 2
house
weeks.
shows the evidence of that.
Yeah, I walked upstairs last night after walking through and shutting all the lights off downstairs. And right now, the cleanest room in our house is like the toy room, which is the opposite of. And it's just because neither of us have been able to. We've been busy and we haven't been able to keep up on those things. Yep. But. And I wanted to kind of share a personal story with this responsibility piece, and kind of, I think a good example of this is the discipline. Keep the microphone in my right hand. What? Oh, that's so funny. What's up with my left hand? Is it my wedding ring? Oh, maybe it's just too close to you. Okay, I'll sit. Okay. So a personal story when it comes to responsibility with discipline. We, as I said, we're on the same team with this. But we kind of ran into something unique where Cohen is now starting to make a big fuss about his clothes and what clothes he wears, specifically his socks. We don't know why, but Please
do not anyone talk to Cohen about his socks today.
Do not. Yeah, it's just
ever.
Like he doesn't want people to see his socks.
Don't talk about his socks.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Please.
We're not really 100% sure why, but it got to the point where he was like, "Well, I'm not wearing socks, and it gets colder. You need to wear socks." And then he would just, okay, buddy, you need to pick out socks, or else mommy and daddy are going to pick. And for some reason, this became this big ordeal. So one day, Jenna wasn't at home, and we had to get somewhere. And as Jenna said, I'm a doer, so I hate being late to anything. And so I said, Cohen, you pick out your socks now. I'm like, if you do not pick them out right now, I will pick them out, and that will be what you wear. No questions asked. So he didn't pick out his socks. Therefore, I grabbed socks. I intentionally, I didn't tell you this, and picked out socks that I know he doesn't like. And we went downstairs, and I put his socks on, and we put his shoes on, and he was crying and whining or whatever the whole time. And so at some level, I did that without talking to Jenna. But knowing that we're on the same team, I just was able to catch her up later and say, hey, or no, I think it was actually in the moment, the next day, Cohen was trying to pick out socks. And I think you were going through the like, okay, buddy, what do you want to wear? And I was like, hey, there's something new that we're going to do right now. If you do not pick out your socks, then we're going to pick them out right now. And so we were just able to kind of, in the moment, adjust to that because we had known that, we knew that we were responsible enough to do that. And this all kind of escalated, I don't know, a week later or a week and a half later. It was Sunday morning. I was at church already because I'm at church significantly earlier than Jenna. And Cohen can walk because he's 4. And he came in, she was carrying him. And he had no shoes on his feet. And I automatically thought, okay, something is going on here. So I stopped what I was doing, went over, took him from her. His shoes were in your hand. And he just decided he was going to be a problem, have a problem with his shoes. So she had already fought with him for, I don't know, a half hour, 45 minutes about this. So I took him. Unfortunately, I have an office. We went back in the office.
Well, I had told him that
Oh, yeah.
I had just basically said, fine, then you're going to church in just your socks, and everyone is going to see your socks.
Yep.
That's what happened.
Yeah. So in the end, it made it worse for him. So now
But he's really good about putting his socks and shoes on. We haven't had a problem since that day.
No, we have not. Not one bit. So when I took him in the back in the office, though, I had him sit there for a little bit. I was finishing something up, and I just went back, and my first words out weren't what happened. My first words out to him were, "You didn't listen to Mommy today, did you?" And he knew right away, and he just went. And he knew right away because he knows that, like, we have these responsibilities, that we're on the same team, and even with discipline, we just kind of try to make sure, we kind of give the benefit of the doubt to the other person when it comes to responsibilities and to discipline with things like that. And I think that's really kind of been a strength that we've been able to grow on and work through. And, like, not to say we do this perfectly all the time. Like, there are times whenever we'll question the other one and discipline tactics in front of Cohen. Not like why are you doing that to him? Or, but just kind of like, can you explain to me why this is happening in this way? I'm trying to think of even an example of that right now. But we're also not screamers.
Have a specific example, but
We don't yell, so we're able to have a conversation in front of Cohen that way. But we typically try to give each other the benefit of the doubt and trust each other, I think, through that.
Yeah, I think we usually try and get behind each other, and then if there's really something that's a big...
No, I put it in my left hand.
Oh. If there's a big discrepancy, I think we would probably talk about it later. But little things we can work out in the moment and talk about in front of Cohen. Even most of the time we just sort of go with whatever the other person is doing, and if there's something that like really doesn't make sense to me, then I'll tend to ask a clarifying question about it. But if it's bigger, we'll probably just go with it and then talk about it later.
Yeah, I mean, a really quick example of that is like when Jenna disciplines Cohen and he's sitting on the stairs or whatever, she wants to stay in the room with him and sit there with him. I want to put him on the stairs and leave the room because I'm so mad. And so it's like she's just, and in the moment, I remember one time you were like, you can't leave, come back. And so we just were able to, and I came back in and we were just able to kind of work through that a little bit, so, yeah.
Okay, so that was responsibilities and discipline. Our third area that we want to talk about kind of being a stress or a strength is your time and your schedule, because no longer is life and your schedule and every hour that you make your own. It's not something you just negotiate around the two of you, and all of a sudden you find your schedule revolves around when your kids are awake and when they need to nap and when they need to sleep and when they need to eat, and it's like that dictates everything for us. I think that was a big adjustment, trying to figure out how do I find time for myself and how do we find time for each other when we became parents. And we kind of look back, like we said, we did this whole transition and we transitioned everything all at once. And that was one of the biggest transitions for us, because when we lived in California, we had this kind of idyllic life, and we had our Saturdays that were our most life-giving day, where Johnny got up and went and played soccer for several hours in the morning. I got up and went to yoga, and then I went to the farmer's market, and then we had lunch together, had a lazy afternoon, and then we go to dinner and go to the independent movie theater and then go get dessert. It was just like that never happens on a Saturday anymore. But that day was so important for us. That day was a day where we were able to pour into ourselves. We did things individually that filled us up, and then we had time together that was really connecting. So that day alone was part of what made our marriage thrive. That day is just so gone. Like that's so far gone. So I think that's really stressful. You probably all, moms are always cliched almost to complain about that. So I think you all know that stress of having your schedule not be your own. But at the same time, I just want to empower you to say your schedule is actually your own. As the parent, you do set the schedule, and that this can be a strength. I mean, your kids are going to need to nap, and they're going to get up earlier than you would like, or at least definitely earlier than I would like. I do not like getting up early, so that's a hard adjustment. But really, there's so much of your schedule that is your own, and you can take control over that. Your kids really don't dictate everything. You choose what your family does together. At this stage, this is really a strength even of having preschoolers, because I think when you have a high schooler who's staying up later than you, who has different interests than you, you're not going to have so much control over that. But right now, when you have a preschooler, you have the opportunity. And I think for us, we've chosen to make time together by Cohen's bedtime is at 7 p.m. Most nights he goes to bed at that time, and that's mostly for us. Like, I think it's good for him, too, to have that schedule and that routine and have the opportunity to sleep well, but we really need those hours together at night, and so it's been a real strength for us to be able to find time together almost every day of the week. We can veg together or talk together or get something done or Sometimes we have to do the budget together. That's not a great night, but but otherwise, I really think that our schedule and our time can be a strength. And even the way that we used to spend time together and what was really life-giving to us, pieces of that are still in our life. We still choose that for our family. We still choose to go out to eat, once a week maybe, and maybe now it's at Chick-fil-A, but it gives us the break from cooking and to just break up our routine. And that's really good for us. And we have family movie night, so we don't go to the independent movie theater anymore, but we still have that time to kind of veg, and we used to go to a lot of concerts. And so we're really thankful that our kid loves music and that we get to share that with him. And this summer, the left-hand picture, it was so awesome because one of our favorite bands is called Lake Street Dive, and Cohen loves them. And so they played a concert in Lancaster. So those are nights that we choose to let Cohen stay up late so we can all go to a concert together and share that memory together. I'm sure he's eventually going to like music that I hate, but right now we all like the same music, and that's really cool. So I like that parts of our schedule and parts of our time still include who we are and how we've always been connected to each other, that we can connect as a family that way.
We don't, just a little caveat, we don't, there's no kids' music played in our house. That's by choice, because it would drive both of us crazy. So that's just kind of, we didn't go to Lancaster to watch the Teletubbies. Do they even exist anymore? Do something. It was just Cohen's just been kind of always a part of, we've just kind of made that decision, part of time and schedule. It's we want to like you, so we don't want to hate the things that you hate, or hate the things that you like. So that's just kind of been a part of what we've done. But
and then this, I would just going to say to moms, I just want to encourage you to leave your kids with the dads sometimes, because I really think there's a lot of demeaning talk that we do as moms to our husbands about how we talk about them as fathers. And I think we get really controlling sometimes about just leaving our kids with them. I think that's a real disservice. It's a disservice to who we are. It's a disservice to our husbands. It's a disservice to our kids. It's okay if your kids eat cereal or pizza or sandwiches or whatever. It's okay if they don't brush their teeth for a night. What your family will gain by having that time for your husband to feel competent as a father is much greater than the loss of your kids having a well-rounded, well-balanced meal or whatever for a night. So I would just encourage you to let go if that's a struggle, because I really think it's just I hear moms say things that are very demeaning to their husbands. So I would just encourage you to give it a try. Go out, do something for yourself, and let your husband mess up and have fun and make a ridiculous memory with your kids. So
I would say, just on that note, before we go to the next thing, the language around that is really helpful for husbands. I've heard different moms and different husbands, actually, dads talk about this. They say oh, I'm babysitting tonight. Well, you're not really babysitting. You're their dad. So if your husband says that, please don't beat him up over that. But if you don't reinforce that by saying, hey, can you babysit the kids tonight, or can you watch no, it's just I don't know what the right language is around that necessarily, but it's just maybe it's hey, I'm so excited that you get to have time with our kids tonight, or whatever it is. I think that's just kind of important to kind of reinforce that. But yeah, you've always been really good about just letting me be with him, and we pretty much eat sandwiches every night. Jenna's at work, by the way, but that's also something that we just do together. So,
and I think I just think you have a lot to gain too by leaving them, because I feel I've been afforded really great opportunities by being able to trust my husband with Cohen, to trust Johnny with Cohen. Even in this last year, I got to go to Nashville for several days just with some girlfriends and be away, and I went to California for another friend's wedding for several days, and just being able to be relaxed and not feel this urgency of I have to get home, Johnny's dying without me, or it's just, that was such a blessing for me. And I feel those times were really life-giving to me and really life-giving to my friendships too. So I'm so glad that I can be apart from them and be present in another space so that I can grow another part of myself that's necessary.
We were really ready for her to come home by the end of the California trip, but it was all good. It was definitely good. We want to switch this last slide here. One of the things we wanted to kind of talk about, and this is our last topic for stress or strength, is just the importance of community. You'll see we have some pictures up here of just kind of some of the some of the friends that Cohen has, and even some of the people from our church in different communities, and we're going to speak to some of those in just a second. But one of the things that stresses, I think, about community is that your kid's schedule can dictate like who you get to hang out with, and when you hang out. A lot of activities that you do now are kid focused, and so sometimes if you have friends that don't have kids or in a different stage of life, they don't necessarily want to go to the children's museum, or whatever that might be. And you can lose touch with those friends. And you also kind of start asking the question, do I really want my friends hanging around my kids? Like that person talks in a way that I don't want my child to talk, or whatever, and they're just not aware of that. And so there's some stress around the community and the people that you kind of have around you sometimes, and you have to be more intentional about that. I think some of the personal stories with the stresses is that, like now sometimes you go to a friend's house at 5 or 5:30 for dinner, right? Instead of like 7 or 7:30.
We just had that.
We just literally, we were texting with another couple from Jennersville who don't have any kids yet. And they said, we're supposed to go over for dinner on Monday. And they said, hey, what time? They're like, how's 7? We're like, Cohen goes to bed then. We can make it work if you want to do that. But it just ended up being like, now they're going to come to our place instead. It's just kind of how it ended up happening. So Cohen can go to bed. And you just can't go out with your friends anymore and do what you want to do. Like, for example, I don't know, I was soon in New Year's, we went out with another family, and it was dinner and lunch. Or I'm sorry, it was a movie and lunch. But we went to watch The Good Dinosaur and ate pizza, but it was but that's the community that we have around us instead of going to some kind of but doing that together as a family was kind of really important to us, even though we wouldn't necessarily choose to go see The Good Dinosaur and go to Sam's Pizza in Corryville afterwards, even though it's really good. But anyhow, that's just kind of things like that. But a real strength that we've seen, and I think this is kind of actually a really big piece for us, and we've been really encouraged with this, is that this can be a stage that it can be hard to be in, as a parent with young kids, but it's also a blessing to be with other people who are really in the trenches with you and are kind of working through life with you, and really a blessing to be with people who love you as a family. Jenna's used the language of being loved as a family by another family. That's something really kind of important to us that we've been kind of blessed to be a part of. It's fun to see your kids have friends like Cohen jumping in the sand with Blake, or he and Eli are up in the corner reading a book, or they're riding around on the swing there, or Halloween, or whatever that is. And we really like those other families, and we like those other people. So our community has shifted and adjusted, but that's just kind of a part of it. And it's really important to have those other families that are kind of there with you, for you to be able to say this is who we are, this is how we function, and you don't have to apologize for it, right? Because some of you are laughing because it's you feel stressed when you go over and you're around certain people because your kids are a nuisance or whatever to them. But it's no, this is who we are. And so you just need to have those. Something that's been really important for us with this, like we said, I work at a church. There's a real big intergenerational piece to community that we think is really important. And our church has really been a really big source and a good source for that. And it's something we really appreciate about our church community. We're in Jennersville, but Kennett here also is something really important. So I don't know. One of those pictures, that top left-hand picture, Cohen, this is a few years ago, but Cohen's in a tux with Chuck, the guy next to him. Chuck is not related to us. Chuck is this is the Orlando family. They're a part of our church. We've known them for 5.5 years now. And they just love Cohen. And it's so Chuck was when we did this event at the church years ago where we all got dressed up and had a red carpet and everything, Chuck saw Cohen had a tux on. He said, I want to get a picture with Cohen. And they look out for him, and they check in with him, and they remember his birthday. And those are just kind of some of the things that are really important to us. And do you want to talk about that other picture that's kind of hard to see what's going on? But
for several years, Johnny did youth ministry, and I just thought it was so cool that Cohen knows probably as many teenagers and adults' names in our church as he does kids, and I love that. I love that the teenagers of our church loved him well, and that we could go to Sky Zone with the teenagers, and Cohen was the only kid there, and they were so engaging and just loved him so well. And that's such a blessing that really fills me up too, to just see kids. And Cohen considers them his big kid friends. He doesn't even realize that's not normal to have relationships with them. He'll just say oh, that's just one of my big kid friends when he talks about them. So I think that's really I think that's really awesome.
His babysitters are his big kid friends. That's how he refers to themselves. Yeah, that picture, though, I don't know if Cohen's kind of the little guy in the middle jumping, and there are just 4 or 5 teenagers just surrounding him because they all wanted to jump with him and watch him jump and kind of laugh about that. I mean, he wants to invite them to his birthday parties and kind of all those things. Like, it's just a part of how we are. And our small group also is really important for this. We are in a small group with five other families. And it's really a space where we can just kind of go and say, this is who we are, we don't need to apologize. And there are other families with young kids, and everybody there either has a kid or has a kid on the way. And like the kids just go in the basement and they play while after they're
With a babysitter.
With a babysitter, yeah, sorry, with a babysitter. Yes, and right now it's all boys, and poor little Ellie is the only girl that's with us right now, Joanna's daughter. But Landon and Cohen and Eli and Sam are in the basement playing. But like Cohen asks, when's small group night? Because he knows that's a part of a community that he could be a part of, and that's just been really
Yeah, and he has
important for us.
ownership of that too. Like a few weeks ago when we just went out as the couples, Cohen was adamant that did not count as small group because the kids were not there. So he just really feels a part of that, and I love that he, feels like the community. He's part of the community, and that's been really good for us to not feel alone. And I know that's probably why many of you are here, to not feel alone in the stage that you're in. So we've been really blessed by that.
Yeah, I think that, yeah. You want to give your last little nugget?
Okay. Well, anyway, so those are just some of the ideas that we had, things that were challenges for us in our marriage as we became parents, and I hope that you'll be able to look at the stress in your life, in your marriage, and be able to see and lean into some of the strength that those things have to offer you. And another piece that I wanted to just share is in my office, and I hear a lot of like, it's just a stage. I hear a lot of that lingo, and I think that's true in a lot of ways. That's true when we speak about our kids not sleeping through the night. That's true when we talk about potty training. That's not true when we talk about your marriage. I think that it's a disservice to your marriage to have this idea of like, life's kind of busy and stressful right now, so we can't really pour into our marriage right now. I really feel like your marriage today, your marriage right now, is your marriage later. You can't wait till then to work on it. You can't wait till the kids are settled, the kids are in school, the kids are at whatever point on the timeline to pour into that. Right now is the time to care about your marriage. Sorry. So I just hope you'll kind of lean into the strength of that and see that your marriage has value right now. It's not something to be neglected until you have time for it. Like it's a priority right now. So thank you guys for listening to us and
Thanks.
letting me be nervous. My microphone's